There's something about being up there working on something that you know masons that built it are no longer here, and that I'm part of that process, because at one point that work that I do will still remain even after I'm gone. There's a lot of labor involved in something like this. You're only as good as your hands allow you to be. That's where I think the real skill comes into play. So this is 733 East 8th Avenue. This is a cast mansion, built 1891. A lot of history on this. When we first looked at the stone, we realized how fractured some of these were. You could just grab it by hand and pull it off. Visually, you could see how dirty everything was. You could see the different staining. You could see the carbon buildup. You could see rapid deterioration on the sandstone copings. You could see the parapet walls had a lot of mortar loss. Restoring these pieces of stone is a process. It's time consuming. You've got to stabilize the stone. You've got to figure out how much sound material there actually is to work with. You've got a building that's got butter brick or butter joints. They're only about a 1/8 inch. Some even have a profile of a 16 inch. You can't use any fancy tool, even a grinder. You take the risk of causing damage to the edges of the brick. You've got to surgically go in there with scalpels in a way and figure out how far you can take the stone before it no longer has integrity. We'd have to hand chisel certain aspects of that stone out to make sure that patchings are gonna not fail. You gotta find out if you have to add anchoring, or there may be parts where you have to stabilize with injection methods to help stabilize pieces that we don't want to lose. It's like patients. Each stone is a patient at a hospital. Each one kind of got their own separate repair methods. And then you want to be able to clean the stone. You got to remove all that staining off. We're monitoring that process so that we're not damaging the brick, we're not damaging the stone, but we're actually removing those atmospheric staining. Not only to clean the stone and remove that, but then also get down to the true color, so that when you go through a patching process and trying to identify what those colors are, you're able to actually come up with what the colors actually are instead of matching dirty stains. Instead you have this patchwork, you get a more cohesive finished look. And then were we gonna match that cleaned, weathered color, or were we gonna match the actual stone as if we broke it in half, the clean break? We ended up looking at the weathered aspect after we cleaned it, and that was kind of the color we were gonna go off of. And then we also were going to do a final wash of the stone with a color, so that in case colors were off, we were able to finalize that color so that everything was cohesive. We are working as if we were working on something back in 1891, using those same kind of techniques and methods. It's fun for us, but it's also, I think, important for the repair process. Why these buildings are still standing to this day is because of how well they were built. If you don't understand that and you start adding more modern materials to these older historical type buildings, you end up causing damage to them. Stuff like that that changes the integrity of the building. It's stuff like that that changes how a building will behave. It's stuff like that that isn't gonna last. The Manitou sandstone that is on this building is one of the kind of key features and the accents of the building, whether it's the copings up along the parapet walls as they step down to some of the different architectural features that wrap the envelope of the masonry. That stone was very prone to that time and is no longer available. We can recreate those materials. Not only recreate those original materials, understand the ingredients, the composition, why they act a certain way, why they're important to use on a building. Traditional materials, they just worked really well. That's why, again, the buildings are still standing to this day. Why you can drive down all these neighborhoods and see all these brick homes and very beautiful different architectural features. We go above and beyond in terms of understanding those materials and methods used for restoration. You look at all that stuff that was crafted by hand, and it's amazing. We wanted to stay true to the materials that were used that really gives this building such a sort of historic aspect to it. And we also want to give respect to the masons, and that's why we decided to recreate the stone. You can't add impervious materials, a lot of stuff that's bought off the shelf at your building supply stores. You sometimes have to get creative in finding a way to analyze those materials, recreate them. We'll take samples of the stone and have a lab, a technician who specializes in creating historical materials. They test the ingredients to the color, to the matching, find out what the true ingredients are, the composition that makes up the stone, and really recreate that into a patching mortar that we then take and start to reform the stone. And then once the patches are done, you've got to go through and do the finishing. Then that's where you can start carving and down to the original profile of the stone. It's a big process, but it's well worth it when it's done, because you look at from how it was to what you've created, and it's a pretty big difference. You're always noticing something on every project. This one particularly, you realize how much work you're doing with just your hands. You feel it, you know, your hands hurt at the end of the day. You wake up the next morning and you go back again and you just do it and you do it and you do it until finally it's done. I think there's a lot of buildings like the Cass Mansion out there that are in need of repair work. They require these types of methods, these techniques that we're using here on the Cass Mansion, for them to continue to exist. If they don't, then sooner or later, all these buildings, the architecture, the history is gonna fade away. It's no longer gonna be a valuable part of Denver, which I think makes Denver unique. It's a brick city. Even though it is a dying trade, you know, we're here, we can still do it.